Welcome to my channel, North Star Homeschool. What is social justice, and why is this an important topic to be teaching our children? That's what we're going to explore in today's video. I have resources and tips to share with you. Stay tuned. Social justice is the view that everyone deserves equal opportunity for financial success, emotional well-being, and personal rights. It is a far-reaching concept and one that impacts just about everything in our lives. How do you incorporate social justice in the homeschool? What are my top tips? First, educate yourself and seek experts. When it comes to the topic of social justice, you should be first on this yourself. Modeling is powerful, and kids will do what you do. So if you do the work of learning about social justice, you're going to be able to show them why it's important. Step 2, identify your own privilege and bias. And this is going to be an ongoing process. Homeschooling itself is a privilege. I don't say that lightly. It comes with a lot of sacrifices. And I think that a lot of homeschoolers will relate to the experience of talking to non-homeschoolers and seeing that they have a bias towards public education that they're kind of unaware of. Because it's self-reinforcing, it is their daily experience with their children, and it's what they went through, and they haven't been through the process of breaking that down for themselves. That same kind of bias exists all over the place in all sorts of different topics. It is impossible to be completely aware of your own bias, but to the degree that you are able to identify it, you're going to have a better chance of teaching your kids and having a well-rounded education. The next thing, vetting resources. I don't know about you, but I have definitely had the experience of starting to read a book to my child and realizing that I was not aware of racism that existed in the book. I was not aware of values that I didn't align with being presented as normal. When we read stories, we empathize with the characters who are telling that story. So if the viewpoint of those characters comes from a racist lens, you're spending time in the frame of someone who has a racist point of view. If you want to have a values-driven education for your kids, vetting resources is going to be part of that process. Which brings us to our next point. Highlight diverse stories and voices. There is so much to say about this, but unexamined, it is very easy to solely study the ideas of white male cisgender men. When you are putting together a library, think about how many diverse voices you are representing in your materials. Look at who all is represented. Try and seek out different voices. Because it's not just about singling someone out, it's about the fact that there is richness in life. Diversity adds so much value. So the next thing, to study social issues with intention. That means to identify social issues you want to teach your kids about and pursue resources specifically for those topics. As a homeschool parent, I feel it is my role to expose my children to different topics. Interest-led learning is powerful for kids, but there are moments where it makes sense to incorporate topics that are not necessarily directly in line with their interests. And you might be surprised, with exposure, there are certain things that are also interesting to kids, even if they don't seem like it on the face of it. Encourage empathy and community. This is really key. You want to get your kids to identify with people who are not like them. You want to help them to learn how to empathize with others. That's kind of at the core of being a conscious human being. It makes you show up in the world in a way that others appreciate. So what you can do is you can model empathy in how you treat your children. You model empathy in how you treat others in the world. How do you talk about others? That's also key, because kids hear everything we say. Community, that's another big piece. Being connected to your community. I truly believe that when it comes to teaching kids about social justice, we have to start in our own communities. It's really hard for kids to identify with something happening halfway around the world. And quite frankly, in many parts of the country I live in, the United States, and also elsewhere in the world, you can be in a very affluent area and there are many people suffering in your very local community. Volunteering with local organizations and becoming aware of the issues that exist around us and finding ways to give back, finding ways to speak up and use our voices. It is wonderful to incorporate social justice into every topic we teach, which is what I try to do here at North Star. But there are specific ideas that can come through better with direct instruction and resources that I use frequently as well. So one I would suggest that you look up is Zen Education Project. One of the key concepts they have is the idea of people's history. So looking at the people who are missing from the main historical record or from the main historical teachings, that is a great resource. Little Justice Leaders, they have a social justice focused description box, which can be a great service to add to your homeschooling experience. Another one is Woke History. That one is specifically a history curriculum for homeschoolers that tries to emphasize diverse voices as well. One thing I'm really impressed with that resource is that they have been very responsive to different communities. Really appreciate that about that curriculum. Another one would be Rethinking Schools. That is a good resource as well. So I will put those links in the notes for this episode as well. If you are enjoying this, subscribe. Be sure to hit that notification so you hear about every video that we put out. You can head over to learn more about North Star at northstareducationalexplorations.com. And as always, you can follow us on Instagram at North Star Homeschool. Thank you for listening.